All right, so I was getting ready for today's show, and I was reading different stories, and I read from various sources, and I pulled up the Daily Universe, which is the student-run newspaper and I guess online uh, uh, periodical that BYU students run down at Brigham Young University, and I came across a story that absolutely fascinated me, and it's a story here about a gentleman by the name of Tom Hirtzel. Now, if you know Tom, tell him I'm talking about him on the podcast. Maybe he's an everyday already. I don't know this, but it was an incredible story because he has attended every BYU home game for 38 years. Now, yours truly, I was born in the year of our Lord, 1987. My birthday's actually coming up. I'm going to be 39 pretty quick here. But since 1987, since Tom enrolled at Brigham Young University as a young man back in the late 80s, he's attended every home game since then. That is an impressive streak. And yes, as he mentions, there is a caveat in here because during the pandemic season, there was one home game BYU was unable to have fans in attendance at. I'll just say this right, I never want to go back through what we endured during the COVID era. I was in my second year doing this podcast. It was audio only. We hadn't moved to YouTube yet. And I can tell you, man, that was a wild, wild time. But having football was great. Having it without fans, not so great. But outside of that one game, Tom has attended every BYU home game for 38 years. This is what I love about BYU fans. And Drake Toll talked about it on Locked On Big 12 yesterday about BYU being, as he used, a special place. And he and I sat together during that BYU Arizona game, and he was just marveling that BYU got down as big as 19 points against Arizona. He said, Jake, this place is still buzzing. There's still thousands of people. A lot of people probably would have quit and gone home at almost any other university in the entire country. And we kind of got on that topic, and I think it inspired what he talked about BYU being a special place and it kind of being one of a kind. And it goes to what Tom Hirtzel has done here. He made a vow to himself that he was not going to miss a BYU football home game, and he's closing in on 4 decades. And as he mentions, they have to wheel me in on a gurney, but I plan on going to BYU football games so long as I'm physically able to do so. Props to Tom. I know there's other people out there who have done similar type things. I think, is it Jonathan Hokanson? I think he's done a lot of travel in his own right to go and be a super fan at BYU away games. I know there are a number of you out there that I don't know names of who do similar things. I appreciate all of you who support BYU as vociferously as you all do. And the success of this Locked On Cougars channel, whether it comes to you in the audio format, whether you listen to it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or litany of other podcast audio platforms, or if you're an everydayer watching us and listening to me on YouTube, you're the reason why we have built what we have built here. And it's a big reason why I'm lucky enough to do what I do, because Cougar fans, you guys, like Tom Hirtzel, are the hardiest of the hardy. You are true diehards. And you may not have a 38-year-long streak of attending every home game in BYU football history. In fact, I have met certain BYU, and I call them true diehards, who have literally never attended a BYU basketball, football, or any other game of BYU sports. But they are diehards because guess what? You come in all shapes and sizes. I had a conversation with an individual not that long ago about the fact that they felt in some ways they needed to disassociate themselves from their BYU fandom due to their decision to step away from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And this is not a conversation that is a one-off. I've had this conversation with other individuals. And we got on the topic, and it's something that former BYU athletic director Tom Holmoe pointed out, is that the BYU tent, think of it as kind of just a big overarching, like a big tent. If you go to a circus, you know, the big tents that they have, it encompasses all types. Whether you are a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which is the sponsoring institution of Brigham Young University, you've stepped away from your faith, or you don't go to church, or heck, you're not even a member of the church. I remember I worked at Fan Sports Apparel, but some of you remember that apparel shop at the University Mall years and years ago when I was in high school before my mission. I also worked after my mission, but I had an individual come in. I wish I could remember this individual's name, but we're talking, I was between the ages of 17 and 19 at that point. So that's half a lifetime ago because I'm 38 now. But we had a conversation. This individual said, I became a BYU fan because I was watching them on TV in the 1980s, and all they did was throw the ball all over the field. He said, I had no connection. I wasn't a member of the church. I had no connection to BYU other than seeing them on TV. And I said, you know what? That's the team I'm going to root for. That's not atypical amongst BYU fans. I was absolutely floored that Tom Hirtzel has a streak of attending BYU home games that is, I know I was born in February of 1987, so he started attending games September of I was 9 months old, and Tom's been attending games as long essentially as I've been alive. That's absolutely awesome. And I'm lucky enough that I grew up the grandson of a BYU diehard and a son of a BYU diehard. My grandfather and my father, their reason why I was around BYU as much as I was as a kid. And yes, my relationship since getting into the media in terms of my job, my day job, working for the KSL Sports Zone, my relationship with BYU has changed. And Tom mentions the fact in here he had to essentially kind of disassociate his personal well-being from the result of BYU games. And that can be very difficult. Trust me. It's a very difficult thing to do. But the bigger point is BYU fans, you guys, you out there, whether you're watching, listening, however you consume this podcast, I appreciate you because it just, to Drake's point, this is not typical behavior. This is not typical fan behavior across college sports and across sports in general. Fandom is short for fanatic, and fanatics usually are pretty fickle. And BYU fans, you guys root for the Cougars, win, lose, draw, or anything in between. Come sleet, come hail, come whatever it may be. Guys like Tom Hirtzel, those of you out there that nameless, faceless, the thousands of you who consume this content every single day, you are the reason this thing goes. And I just want to say I appreciate you because reading that story about Tom Hirtzel, I don't think it's atypical to have stuff like that happen. And there's been other stories of it over the years, and I wish I was able to talk more about them. And if you have stories like that, send them in. I'd love to hear more about it. Whether you want to reach out via social media, you can email us. The email address for the show, lockedonbyu@gmail.com. Reach out and tell us about your stories because it makes me feel a connection to Cougar Nation that otherwise I probably wouldn't get. And I love stories like this. I know there's some of you who listen across the world. Our good friend Captain Mojo flying an F-15. He was over in what he called the sandbox overseas, defending our freedoms as an Air Force pilot. He's now stateside out there in North Carolina and joined us ahead of the East Carolina game that he flew along with a fellow BYU fan of his, that pregame flyover. I love stories like that. I know some of you listen out. I've heard from who else am I thinking of? Just people that New Zealand, Hong Kong, man, it's incredible. And some of you in Saudi Arabia, I just think some of the different places people have mentioned they listen and consume this show from. And it shows that the brand of BYU, it's literally worldwide, and it's obviously helped by being associated with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. But fans like you, this doesn't exist without y'all. So appreciate, I from the bottom of my heart, and I say this often on this podcast, I appreciate what you guys bring to the table as fans because it really is. It is unique in so many different ways. So shout out to you, Tom Hirtzel. Shout out to all of you in Cougar Nation, and thank you as always for your continued support of this and essentially all BYU media because it's not as lucrative for anybody when it comes to, unless you guys out there are consuming it. So as I often say, thank you for making Locked On Cougars your first listen today. Please subscribe, rate, review, share the show with your family and friends. Join the Locked On Cougars Everydayer Club, lockedoncougars.supercast.com, and get the inside scoop if you're so inclined to help support the show, just to kind of that next level. But as always, once again, thank you for making your first listen today. Go make your second listen Locked On College Football, or as I mentioned, Drake Toll and Locked On Big 12, and come back tomorrow and be an everydayer right here on Locked On Cougars.